Oh, I can. Okay. All right. We have started recording. Cool. So I also want to just welcome Reed and Matt to the meeting. I think they have not attended in a while. So welcome, folks. For just to make sure everyone's caught on board, Reed is going to help us out with some of the Clarity features that are mainnet blocking. And then Matt is going to help us out with testing the upgrade path for Stacks 1.0 to 2.0 migration. Both of these work streams are pretty critical for the mainnet launch. So I want to thank you folks in advance. And we have Pascal online as well for folks that haven't met him yet. Does everyone know here, or everyone here know Pascal? I think Dan, everyone's probably familiar with. Um, Well, hopefully people have seen Pascal in Discord and on GitHub. He's been very helpful and making a lot of very useful contributions on the Stacks blockchain. So we're glad to have him here on this call as well. With that, I was thinking maybe we'll just jump straight into the sprint board. And I thought that we'll just give using this GitHub board a try. If this seems to be working well enough, we can just abandon ZenHub in favor of this, and I can make tweaks to it to improve the automation. Like right now, it's still a little bit funky. Does that seem reasonable?
Yep. I
All
have
right.
one question about this board.
Yeah.
We're missing a in review column.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
intentional?
Not quite. I mean, like when I set up
Okay.
this board, it was mostly to track and create visibility around where we are in Krypton. It wasn't so much to facilitate sprint planning for this team.
Gotcha.
But if an in review column is useful, we can certainly add that. I can take that as an action item. Whoa. All right, let's maybe just start with the in progress column right at the top. Hang on a second, I just need to admit Jeff. All right, Aaron, where are we on this PR?
It's just waiting for reviews.
Okay. Now that Ludo's back, do you need Ludo's review or is Jude's feedback still blocking?
I don't think anyone's taken a look at it yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need both. I think Ludo and Jude's.
Okay. All right. And then I think Jude mentioned that this PR is not yet ready for review, or was that a different PR?
Yeah, I think that's this PR.
Okay.
He pushed a bunch of commits last night, but I'm not sure yet whether or not it's ready for review. I think
Yeah, his latest message on the latest message on Discord says the PR isn't quite ready for review. I still want to make it so the active burning stacks will decrease the total liquid supply, which in turn affects the thresholds for stacking. So hopefully he'll actually tag folks for a review either today or tomorrow. Okay, so I think this is just the issue corresponding to this PR. Is this part of your PR already, Aaron, or is there a separate PR for this?
This is going to be a separate PR. So I'm currently working on this. Yeah.
Okay. What about this? Do you know if this is part of Jude's PR already?
This, I think, was either implemented in my previous PR or is implemented in the PR under review.
Okay. Wait, so should I change the assignee to you?
Yeah, I implemented this.
Okay. Just to keep it clean. Weird. Okay. All right, anchor block detection. This is the PR over here. What about this one?
Same deal as the previous issue. Like it was either implemented previously or it's implemented in that anchor block detection PR. Like depending on how you consider implemented.
All right, anchor block forks.
Yes, I think that was just the issue we just had.
So is this in progress or is this already part of a PR?
Already part of that PR.
All right. Yeah, I wish GitHub automatically linked issues with PRs. There must be a way to do this.
Yeah, so I think that PR, like I have linked them. Like, so if you click on that PR, like it has 4 linked issues or something.
This one?
Yeah, if you scroll down, linked issues.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, okay. It does actually show here 1 linked ping pull request. So it's just not that obvious, but it does show it. Okay. All right. That's something. Okay. Does anyone know if this is actually part of GPR?
This is part of that PR that Jude is working on.
Same for this.
Yep.
What about those ones? Did I lose everyone?
Yeah, you dropped out for a minute, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something off with my internet. Yeah, Luda was asking you, where are we on this PR?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have one last feedback.
You're breaking up again, Ludo. I would say keep your video off for sure.
And then, so, yeah, is it better?
I'm not sure, but let's try. Worst case, you can just put an update in Discord.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have one last feedback to address, which is the feedback from Aaron concerning escape characters. And then, so I was wondering if we would be considering community feedbacks on this PR. Like I think Terje have been, I think he came up with a few proposals for string refinement and stuff. So are we? Is it going to be part of the first iteration, or are we doing something later? What's the status?
I mean, my preference is this PR has been outstanding for a while. I think it implements useful functionality. Even if we have room for improvement down the road, I don't think it should block this PR. So my preference would be we find a way to merge this PR and then continue sort of exploring further options, whether it's refinements or, you know, I think there were suggestions to like have custom types or like for character sets, the ability to define character sets or something along those lines. We can continue exploring those in parallel, but I don't think they should block this PR unless someone disagrees.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Good, sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, let's come to the backlog then. Does anyone know what the latest is on this PR? Pascal, maybe if you have any update here.
I think just the one thing we need to do is, because we create a lot of very tiny UTXOs, which for some people, the Bitcoin node answers very slowly. So I think the way to change that would be to better generate UTXOs when we register the keys, and especially register the key. But there's also this PR where we would just be reusing the key instead of generating one for every block, which I think would be a better solution because it would lower the fees per block to mine. So the first fix, better UTXOs, is probably fairly simple. I'm not fully sure what's involved in reusing the keys. Maybe it's just a matter of not checking that it has been used. I'm not super familiar with that piece of code, so either Aaron or Jude might know better. And I'm not sure that the UTXOs fix would be enough. At least that could only help. Because after that, otherwise, every block you mine, you get an UTXO. So you get like thousands of them later on. So that's definitely not something that's going to scale very well. Because after 3,000 blocks, it's a lot of data in the JSON returned.
Yeah, I think if every time we mine a block, we're like generating a new UTXO for the miner address.
Yeah, it leaves a 5,500 Satoshis thing that we cannot reuse. If we were, I think one suggestion I have is because when we mine,
is that for the VRF public key register, or is that?
Yeah, that's for the public key register.
Oh yeah, I think that that 5,500 Satoshi output like needs to exist in those operations.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be 5,500 Satoshis, right? It could be 11,000, which we use for mining for now, which would be temporary, and we could eventually just not, because it only needs to be used when the key is used, right? So you could have a few UTXOs that you keep recycling in between the. Yeah,
that's true, but I think that trying to optimize for that VRF public key register operation is probably not that useful, because like we're trying to get rid of
right, you know,
that operation.
That's why I was saying it might be just like a temporary fix, and I'm not sure what's involved fully in not re-registering a key for every block. It may just be you register it once, and as long as the node can find it, that's fine.
Yeah.
You just don't verify that you've used it, and they assume that it's fine, because only the miner can generate signatures or new hashes that derive from it, because it's the only one that knows that private key.
Yes.
It's fine. You might just want to generate a new key from time to time just for safety.
So if I can interject here. So it seems like there's a handful of things that are going on here. One is that, we need to, I think we already made a decision on 1615, right? And I don't think there's any objection to that. So it seems like one concrete decision is to prioritize this and make progress on 1615, because it'll help a whole host of issues, including this one.
It's likely to fix that one, every other block. There may be something else going on as well, but at least that can only help.
Okay, and then on this issue, like around the UTXOs, maybe that's a change we can try. But I'm more curious, like right now, like is this, there's obviously an optimization here, but what is the actual impact? Like, is there some unintended behavior here? Like, what is the actual bug, if there is one?
Well, it's not a bug, but the side effect of having lots of UTXOs means that the Bitcoin node will will not keep the UTXOs in its cache, so it needs to rebuild it.
Yep.
And it takes more than 30 seconds, which is the block frequency.
Right. And so this is, again, like it's an optimization for the testnet that's resulting in, right now the mining behavior is
Right,
not
yeah,
ideal.
but even for mainnet, that would eventually become a problem. It would just take longer. Although I think some miners, just from what I've observed, they start off the bat right like this. I don't know if it's the network, their latency that they have in their network, or because I've never seen my miner behave like that. So
yeah, so my recommendation would be to like try and reframe this issue in terms of like an actual problem, and assuming that we are going to be working on 1615, like what is the other concrete action item, if any, from here, and maybe like tweaking UTXOs is one of them. But does that
first implement 1615 and then see if that helps?
Okay.
That would be, I think, the best course of action.
All right. Does that work for you, Aaron?
And just for my information, like the registration of the keys, I thought I saw a proposal where we don't need to register it all the time and can reuse the keys. Is that still the case?
That is the issue that we were talking about 1615.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's clear. Like it seems like likely that we can do that because it will reduce the Bitcoin fees a lot.
Yes.
40%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sounds good.
All right. So Pascal, is this something that you can or want to take on 1615?
That's something I can try on.
Okay.
I should have some time this week to
All right.
try something like this.
All right. I need to check why this is not working. All right, I'll figure that out. Let's see. Okay, we talked through this. What about the wire format? This is sent to Jude. I don't think this is part of his current PR, right?
No, it's part of his current PR, and that was like deprioritized. I mean, that issue should maybe be renamed to Bitcoin stacking wire format.
This one?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Really? Let's see.
Yeah, or maybe it should be split into two issues. So like the smart contract that Jude's PR has like allows people to send stacking messages on the Stacks blockchain.
I see.
And then a separate issue is like implementing a Bitcoin message protocol for doing those same operations.
Understood. So this one is actually in progress then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then we want to open maybe a new issue to track. All right. So I can stick an action item. Right. And then delegation, I'm assuming that it's not part of his PR, right?
I believe it is actually.
Oh, okay. And do we need the same for delegation messages as well, like a Bitcoin specific?
Yeah.
Platform? Oh. What about this one? Any idea? I can just check in with you
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's quickly go through the new issues, see if anything needs to be changed. I think you guys were talking about this on Discord, and you want to add some more context here?
Yeah, sure. So the VM environment object basically just tracks who the TX caller and TX sender are. Currently, it stores those as just like clarity values, and there's a bunch of asserts throughout the code to ensure that that clarity value is actually a principal. And we can actually just have the type system ensure that that's the case by using principal data instead of clarity value. So.
Okay. Is this like a very disruptive refactor, or?
No, I would estimate it's probably under 80 lines of code.
Oh, okay. Or maybe it's a good issue for Reed or Matt to tackle if they want to just start to familiarize themselves with the code base.
Yeah.
So this one and this one, I'll move them around. These are both related to the work that Tintash is doing in trying to implement a Rosetta specification. I think the specific endpoint, the network endpoint, is both under-specified in the Rosetta specifications and also not super critical. So I think for the purpose of this discussion, it's fine to kind of ignore these. The TLDR is that I don't think any changes are needed to the stacks node itself. And the data that's returned in the neighbors endpoint is sufficient for now. If we need anything more specific, we can include that. Wait, actually, maybe oh yeah, I think I'm confusing two separate issues. This is something that Jude opened. Does anyone have more context on this? Oh, now I'm remembering. So I think the issue here is that the neighbors endpoint today.
Yeah, there was something I suggested.
Yeah, I think.
Just the port exposed.
Right,
well,
right.
The port when it's the incoming port is useless to anyone, but the outgoing port in the outbound at the bottom,
yeah,
is the peer port, not the HTTP port. So if you want to walk the graph using the HTTP, you can't.
I see. And so you want the port here that people can actually.
Well, Jude said actually the port is not enough. You need the full URL.
Right.
Because the node could be listening in a separate URL. So that's why that's what needs to be added. Yeah. That's a fairly trivial, probably. Fix.
Yeah, seems fairly straightforward, but also not like super
critical. Yeah, it's not super critical, but if you want to be able to do, because the peer protocol is not trivial to re-implement, especially in some other language. So HTTP would be easier for having enough information. HTTP would be more helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. What about this one? Don't we have maybe a bunch of like similar issues which are all about sort of exposing various aspects of the burn chain, making them available through Clarity?
And I think Jude has been working on some of these for his PR anyway, because he needs it.
Yeah, so I think that the only thing I think he's working on in his PR is this exactly, the burn chain block header.
So maybe can I move this to in progress then?
I think so.
All right. What about this, Aaron?
This is not in progress. It does not itself block POX implementation, but this is something that we should view as definitely mainnet blocking. Because basically without this in place, POX is basically like an existential threat to the Stacks blockchain.
Mm.
So the basic idea with this issue is that, like, in the event that the POX anchor block is missing from your node, miners, if they don't know what the POX anchor block is, those miners should be able to continue mining the Stacks blockchain. And if they are over 50% of the mining power, regardless of whether or not a POX anchor block later arrives, the blocks that they mined during that time period should be valid. That's not currently the case with the way that our Marf implementation works. So there'll be something that we need to address, and it's a little complex because it will touch some pretty internal parts of the Marf. So.
Okay, so that might be an argument for doing this sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, though it is like very separable from basically all of the work streams.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. What about this?
Yeah. So this is basically this can be thought of as like an optimization on our networking path for POX. So it's something that we need to do at some point.
Would this be also a mainnet blocker?
Probably not, just because this is like not consensus critical. It just could result in some fairly bad networking behavior, but only in sort of corner cases. So.
Okay. All right, I'll leave this in here. Okay, maybe instead of going through this BNS issue, maybe Ludo, if you can, and since Mark is also here, if you guys can do sort of a quick summary of what's the current plan around names and sort of concrete next steps on this front. Ludo, are you still there?
Yeah, sounds good. So I'll add some comments in the issue directly.
Okay. All right, Mark, anything you want to add?
I mean, pretty simply, we're trying to maintain the same user experience between now and 2.0. And there will be some additional configurability for subdomains, but it won't affect our default free subdomain registrar. So yeah, so the sum.
Okay. This one we had a bunch of discussion last week. Munib, since you're on the call, I think most folks were looking for like any additional data points or research on, you know, how and why a locking period for transaction fees longer than, you know, what we're using for Coinbase, what the dynamics of that would be.
Yeah, I collected some of that, and my impression was that most of the studies are pretty hypothetical. So it's not like here's real data and here's what we witness. It's more like they're models, and so I think my hunch is that obviously we can always have SIPs in the future, but right now we don't have like real data from the network around this issue. So maybe you don't need to do anything, and we can just mark a future thing that, you know, as we get more real data or we do more in-depth thing like research there, there can always be a future step that explores it more.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically the new information here is that I was not able to find like any concrete like data on this.
Okay. Anyone objected to just closing this outright?
Nope.
All right. I don't know if Pascal, if you have any more context on this one, or if anyone else has had a chance to look into this issue. It sounded like there was some overlap with the testnet issues we were having 2 weeks ago, but I don't know if we ever got to the bottom of it.
Not necessarily the bottom, because in one case, I think its node was just too slow, but also it may be linked to the amount of UTXOs.
Right.
So again, this the same thing is once we remove the key registration need, this may go away. If not, then it's because there's something else going on.
Okay. All right. Is anyone, since we already have 1783 where we're tracking this, if this is indeed a duplicate and maybe it hasn't reproduced, is everyone okay if I ask, is this Philippe?
That's Philippe's node, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we can just check with Philippe if this has happened again on his deployment, and if not, maybe we can just close this out and then continue tracking 1783, and then of course we have 1615.
Because Philippe has some added characteristic because it's far away. His network may be slower, so that also may be impacting him.
Yeah.
But I think the root cause is the same thing. It's just that the Bitcoin node is really buffering. And eventually miners will probably use their own Bitcoin node anyway, not rely on someone else.
Right.
But that's not the case. We can't do that right now, so because it's not the real network.
Right. So one thing actually this conversation reminds me, something we talked about a while back. Obviously, we don't yet have microblocks on the testnet, but I do think it'll be useful to like start increasing our block intervals to, slightly longer time periods, both to get a feel for how the actually feels on the network. In some dimensions, it might be more frustrating until we have microblocks, but I think that would also be a good learning. So is anyone opposed to like on the next testnet reset, if we just bump the 30 seconds up to like a minute or 2 minutes?
That might make it harder for some people trying to develop Clarity contracts, because that's going to make the cycles they use a lot longer. But that's not how I've been developing Clarity, because I use my own reg test setup.
Right.
But discussing on Discord over the weekend, it's not something most people can do easily. The setup is a little tricky, and very little documentation is there.
Right.
So that might impact some folks.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, to develop a contract, you should just use the Clarity SDK anyway, initially. But some people, for some reason, don't do that either. So they just experiment with Sidecar, and not Sidecar, the Explorer.
Yeah.
So if you bump the time, that's going to make it harder for them.
I mean, I think that like having people do sort of tight development loops on testnet is a little bit of like a anti-pattern anyways.
Right, yeah, so that might discourage it and push them back, but that's what I've seen some people do, or especially you see some contracts that people send to the testnet, they're really just experimenting. They should be doing that in Clarity SDK, because then you get immediate feedback. But
either way, seems like, I mean, this is maybe a gap in our current developer tooling, even for the testnet, that we should address to actually solve this problem, rather than sort of relying on the block intervals as a hack around it for now.
right. But personally, I would do microblock before I do this, or
Okay.
do microblock at the same time, because microblock and 30 seconds block might be a little tricky for timing perspective. So you need longer blocks.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of code in my microblocks, but I don't know how ready it is to actually do that. And of
We
course,
still
it's
have a
going
bunch of work on microblocks left. Yes, it's going to be a while.
plus it's going to complicate testnet issues.
Was anyone else about to chime in? I thought I heard Ludo, or maybe it was someone else.
No, sounds good to me. I think it's a good idea to bump the block time.
Yeah, I was gonna say this would be a good exercise for probably some of our other projects right now, which I think are kind of too dependent on like kind of an instant transaction where they should start preparing for like the 10-minute.
All right, so I think I'm leaning towards actually doing this, obviously noting Pascal's feedback. Maybe we can bring this up in the DevX team meeting tomorrow to see if there's things that we can do on that front to ease the pain points around Clarity. Like maybe there's better documentation, or making it easier for people to spin up a local setup that they can use to test contracts locally. But I'd rather tackle that problem directly and maybe incur some pain for longer block intervals. But it seems like that would be a useful learning experience.
If anything, you can always restart with a shorter block if it really breaks everything.
Yeah, it's a reversible change. All right. All right, so between 1 and 2 minutes, anyone has an opinion? Otherwise, I will make an executive decision.
I would say 2 minutes, simply because
All
it's
right.
closer to 10. So let's maximize the pain.
All right, I like it. Okay, so coming back to this issue, it sounds like, Pascal, you're in favor of kind of leaving this as is for now. I'm at least
Which one are we talking about?
Remember that we were talking about 1797. Yeah.
I would focus on 1615 first.
Yeah.
And see how that helps.
Right.
Increasing the block time would also help some of these miners, because some you write about a minute to get an answer, but in some cases it times out. The request of the Bitcoin node times out because it's too big or it takes too long to generate. So.
All right. I'm sorting this list a little bit in maybe rough order of importance. So we had a discussion on last Friday around Clarity features for mainnet. I think this one is a big one that needs some additional design work as well. I think the next step there is for Aaron, Reed, or maybe a subset of folks on this call to meet to flesh this out. Yes. All right. Well, let me know if you need my help with scheduling or anything else. Otherwise, I'm assuming that this will move forward. Should we set some date to actually have a write-up that we can share with the community and get more people's eyes on?
Yeah. I think for a write-up, there shouldn't be much of a blocker on that, basically. Yeah. So it's just as quickly as we are able to do the write-up. So I think maybe to temper expectations, maybe we say we'll get the write-up by the end of August. But like it could be done way before then. So.
Okay. Let's see, where are we? 17th. All right. Reed, you have any thoughts on this? Do you want to pick a more aggressive date?
No, I think that's good. I don't see any reason that this can't get done sooner than that. Although I definitely need a bit more context on kind of what's involved. But again, you know, a write-up shouldn't take too long. And yeah, I'm just kind of wrapping up some work with some of the DevX work I've been doing. And should be kind of free to commit most of my time to this tomorrow or the next day, I guess.
All right. I can check in with at least the two of you maybe later this week, and we can revise this at that time.
Cool.
All right. I'm going to skip over some of these. We had an issue from our DevOps team, request for structured logging. We've talked about this before. I think it's useful, important, but just not something that we can take on. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss there. All right. Okay, these are all Rosetta related. Oh yeah, what about, I think Jason was not able to reproduce this. I know, Pascal, you've been exchanging messages with him.
Yeah, and I've got, it happened to me several times. And even in some cases, I wasn't even a miner, I was just a follower. I've been actually going through the log because I took that as a sort of a excuse to actually understand better how the node starts. So I've been going through like all the different methods and logs and all these types of logs to understand how it's getting the blocks and then asking and for the stack blocks. And so I'm like about line 210,000 of the log. I've got about 100,000 more to go.
Oh wow, okay.
But it some of it goes fast.
Right.
I think it's a timing issue because mine, I got two cases where it crashed about 1/3 of the download of the stack blocks through. So I think it's starting to do something too quickly. And in the case of Jason, it looks like the same failure, except it might be just a couple blocks that it's behind. It's going to take me a while longer to look into it.
Okay.
And then I asked for her first data because the type of bug, the more data the more crashes you look, then you start looking for similarities and differences, and that's how you can pinpoint eventually. So
yeah.
I'm still something I'm looking into, but I'm taking my sweet time because taking that as a learning activity as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think the one thing I would suggest is if you already are confident, for example, like I don't think this bug has anything to do with the fact that it's running on an Ubuntu server. And so if there are kind of definitely red herrings, we can just remove them from the description just to, it sounds like, I mean, if it's a timing issue and we have no reason to believe that this bug has been fixed in the current testnet, then hopefully we can, you know, get some more repros. So for example, if we think that people with slower networks might experience this, you know, maybe we can either ask the community for help or potentially even incentivize a specific line of thinking or investigation.
Yeah.
And we can slow down traffic.
I think that's really a random one, because my network most of the time is super fast,
right?
And my machine is also fairly beefy compared to the machine that Jason was running on. So and I've seen that also a few times the week before it happened to me, and I dismissed them at being something else, but it was definitely the same thing. So it has happened. and it always seems to be the same crash, where it's expecting to have something in the downloaded and it's not there.
Hmm.
But I don't know the code enough to be able just to reason. I need to put my figure on it eventually, which is
Okay.
why it was like doing the line by line kind of download. And no, I'm not going like line by line. Once I find a pattern, I skip to the next
Yeah.
to the next kind of different pattern in the log. But
Okay. Has anyone had a chance to look at this besides Jude? This was something I filed a while back. We had a crash on one of the miners that we are running. This was on July 31st. Jude said it could have been fixed by a subsequent PR, but we are not able to verify the version that was running before or when the crash happened. So it was hard to be definitive about that. But basically, I'm wondering if any of these stack traces, if we believe that they're similar or same, if we can consolidate the issues. Otherwise, I'll check in with Jude and maybe just close this out and we can reopen if it happens again. All right.
this one is a different stack trace than the JSON crash.
All right. That's at least good to know. All right. I think we have reviewed everything new. So we can come back here. On the testnet front, I don't think there's anything worth discussing. So the next thing is to just update our timeline stock here. See where we are. All right, so I think some of these have maybe changed. I mean, it looks like the stacking wire format is actually done, at least for the Stacks blockchain, and we'll open new issues for the Bitcoin one. This one we're still reviewing, right, Aaron? Or
No,
is this
that one
merged?
is actually merged.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's anchor block
Alright.
detection that is
I see.
in review.
And then this one.
I'm currently working on.
All right, so I'll push this out. Or maybe this is here. All right, and I am assuming that Jude hasn't started work on the networking changes. We've had like this kind of giant integration block, like without any additional details. Aaron, based on your work, I think some of your PRs already did like front-loaded more integration than we were originally planning for or expecting. So
Yeah.
what's your current sense of the integration work remaining here?
So my current sense is that we shouldn't have much just like pure integration work. I think that we may discover issues related to networking, just because the block downloading protocol will have changed a fair amount. So there might be some additional testing that's needed there. That's like sort of integration testing, or really end-to-end testing. But otherwise, I don't think that there's much integration work remaining.
Right, and then for the networking changes, also I recall maybe this was last week that most of the networking changes we can treat them as optimizations. That things should more or less still work. We'll just be downloading a lot more blocks than we need to.
Yeah, that's the hope, but that is that's an untested assertion.
Got it. So, I mean, obviously we should prioritize like all of the POX PRs that are in flight. My yeah, I'd like to hear from folks here if it's possible to like hope to get everything, at least all the current PRs in flight, maybe get them merged by the end of this week. And then next week, while maybe we're implementing some of the networking changes, we can actually spin up a staging environment internally before we actually push anything to the testnet, where we can start deploying some of this code and just see what happens and use that work to iron out any other issues with the hope that 2 weeks from now we'll have most of the work done, that we can actually roll this out in the testnet the week following. Or does that seem like too optimistic a timeline?
I think that might be possible.
All right. Cool, we're coming up on time here. Anyone has any other questions, comments?
Yeah, one quick question about microblocks. Like I didn't fully catch that. When are we thinking of implementing that?
I mean, there's some work that has happened, but there is a whole bunch of work that is still remaining. So actually, if you just go to open issues and you search for microblocks, that should give you a good list. So I think, these 4 or 5 issues are still remaining. Some of these are smaller. I think this is probably the biggest one. So we'll get to it. I think after POX, this is the highest priority.
Got it. I'll check it out on GitHub. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Well, I guess in that case, we can call this a wrap. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I will see you all on Discord and GitHub. Bye.
Sounds good.
Thanks.